Welcome, true believers, to Badwolf Comics. I'm your host, the Badwolf, and today we get to look at the custom omnibus, Thundercats. Before we get started, I'd like to ask everyone to please like and subscribe. It's the best way to support the channel and helps us grow as a community. And don't forget during checkout at Organic Price Books to use the code BADWOLF for $2 off your order. Let's get started. This is the Thundercats custom omnibus. Let's start by taking a look at the outside here. Here's obviously our cover here. Looks really nice, great art. Here's our spine. Love the Thundercats lettering. Here's the back. A little description here. And how's everything that's collected? I'll get into that in a moment. And then both the flaps are the same. They have this great little Lion-O sort of omens picture. It's the same on the other side. Let's take a look at the outside of this book. My friend that makes these is extremely good at what he does. Everything he does is extreme. Let's take a look here. Look at that. That is just beautiful. I love his work. Alright, let's get into the meat of this. Take a look. Now, like many of you, my first experience with Thundercats was in the 80s. And Thundercats was, in my opinion, my favorite show of all time at that time. Just great stories, great art. I really liked the animation they had, and they seem to be following this up here. Now, the funny thing is I know they had a little mini-series of Thundercats years ago, back in the 80s, but I didn't know they had this much content. And when I found out, I called my buddy up and was like, man, it would be really nice. We should do a Thundercats omnibus. And he just laughs. Apparently another friend of his already had the idea, and they were already in the process of making one, so I asked him to make me one, and here we are. I haven't read this yet, so I really can't comment on the story. It is on my list, but I have such a huge backlog of things to read. I swear I'll get to this. It's definitely high on my list because I'm excited to read it. I just haven't gotten to it yet. Originally, I was going to wait until I had read each book before I did a review on them, but if I do that, it'll be literally months before anyone gets to see any custom books, and I didn't want to go do that. I wanted to be able to go through the books with you guys here so you could at least see what they're about and see how it turned out. Now, with these customs, all of my customs are made by the same guy, and we don't take actual books and bind them. What he does is he takes scans from the internet and prints them. He prints all of these off on his printer at home, which is why you don't see the high gloss. It's definitely more of a matte color. But to be perfectly honest, it doesn't matter to me. The stories are still great. Everything's still vivid enough that it captures my imagination. Just looking at it, I'm excited to read it. I mean, all the new Thundercats that they have yet to introduce that I've never met before. Now, this omnibus collects A Cat's Tale #1, Thundercats Reclaiming Thundera 1-5, Thundercats The Return 1-5, Thundercats Dogs of War 1-5, Thundercats Hammerhand's Revenge 1-5, Thundercats Enemy's Pride 1-5, Thundercats Origins Heroes and Villains #1, Thundercats Battle of the Planets #1, and the last two I really wasn't expecting, but Superman Thundercats #1 and He-Man Thundercats. So these Superman and He-Man stories really intrigued me to want to look into more of this. So when originally considering doing an omnibus, like I said, I thought there was just the first little mini-series. I didn't think there was enough to do that. So I actually wasn't going to do a full omnibus, but once I discovered all these other stories, we just had to do an omnibus. It was just a must-do, and apparently I wasn't the only one that had this idea. Thundercats was a great show. Any child of the 80s knows what Thundercats was. Most of us were really into it as kids. Some of us weren't, but Thundercats was where it was at for me. Some great shots here. Wily Kit and Cat. End shot there. Here we are into the heroes and villains. Yeah, I've never read these stories, but they look so good. I'm really excited to get into this book. Unfortunately for me, right now I'm reading Once and Future. I just finished the last run on TMNT. Reviews coming out for that. Next, I still have Firepower and the Boys, so it might be a little bit before I actually get to these, which is why I wanted to do the overview instead of a full-on in-depth review. At least with the overview, you guys can see the pages, the art, and just really see what a great book it's turned out to be. Don't recognize that Thundercat, but he's... Oh, that's not the Sword of Omens. Maybe it's the sword. It looks like the Sword of Omens, though, so perhaps it's the sword before it got the eye. Like I said, I'll have to read it and find out. God, this review's making me want to read it more now. Maybe I'll have to bump it up in my reading orders of what to read next. I've really just been trying to get into other books that are not DC or Marvel related. Just great art. All right, let's keep going here. Great action sequences. Oh, here we go. Here we are. Superman Thundercats. Did not expect something like this to ever happen. Much like my Star Trek Doctor Who crossover book that I have, I did not expect a crossover like this ever in my life. But it was actually, from what I've just flipped through looking at, it looks really good, though. I mean, because I thought it was, that sounds stupid. I don't know if I'm going to want to see that, but don't you just want to read it now? As we all know, Superman has an aversion to magic, and the Sword of Omens is magic, so Superman could lose this fight. We don't know. Looks like someone's got the Eye of Thundera there. Some great double spreads there, fighting Mum-Ra. Gosh, this looks so good, guys. And here we have the source book. It's basically just a little bio of each character or characters going through. Hachiman, Lion-O, Mum-Ra. Does it for each of the characters. Thundercats as a whole, more Mum-Ra. And here's another crossover I never thought I would see in a million years, but this makes more sense because He-Man was also an 80s cartoon that was on at the same time as Thundercats, so it doesn't surprise me as much as Superman, because they were kind of both the same 80s themed cartoons. But this looks, and I'm not a fan of He-Man. I'm really not. I just never cared for He-Man. Even as a kid, I just didn't get into it. But I gotta say, man, the art in this book makes me want to read a little more. I actually, for a brief moment, considered getting the Masters of the Universe Omnibus. But this fight looks a little more epic, you know, kind of along the same lines of both franchises have a magical sword that both good and evil are fighting over. Just phenomenal stuff. Looks like Skeletor got a hold of that thing. They're in trouble now. Lion-O's going to save the day. The Sword of Omens, because he's cool like that. That's a great shot. Clash of the Titans. Looks like Lion-O's Battle Cat got a humanoid bipedal form. That's new. Man, I need to read this. He-Man and Lion-O going at it. Some good stories here. Battle Cat's back to normal. Good shot. Oh, it looks like they're doing by the power of Grey Soul and the Thundercats Ho. Oh, power beyond power. That's the end of that. And we have a bunch of extras here. Extra little covers. Some more bio stuff, some behind the scenes stuff. This is everything that was collected. More covers. Pre-sketches. And there you have it. I hope you guys enjoyed the walkthrough of this Thundercats custom omnibus. But stick around, true believers. Bad Wolf Comics has plenty more to come. Thanks for watching.